If you don't work on yourself today, life will start working on you tomorrow. The only question is, do you want to write your story or just watch it unfold? The email hit at 9:43 a.m. We regret to inform you that your employment has been terminated effective immediately. Daniel stared at the screen, blinking once, then twice, as if the words might change if he looked at them hard enough. But they didn't. The office was silent, save for the hum of the cheap desk fan and the clink of someone stirring coffee down the hall. He closed the laptop slowly and sat back, numb. The job had never been glamorous cold calls, awkward scripts, and a manager who only looked up when sales dipped, but it had been a paycheck. Now, even that was gone. Outside, the city buzzed. Taxis darted like hornets. Business people rushed past the glass windows with briefcases and purpose. Daniel felt invisible. Again, he walked home. No money for a cab. No appetite for a bus stop each. Step echoed the truth louder. I have nothing. He passed the bakery where he once bought croissants for his girlfriend before she left. Past the park bench where he'd sat months ago with a spiral notebook, dreaming of writing a novel that never made it past page 12. By the time he reached his apartment, a dim one room, flat with peeling paint and bills stuffed under the door, it felt like the world had folded in on him. Daniel collapsed onto the mattress on the floor. No bed frame. No headboard. Just him, the ceiling, and a gut-deep question that had haunted him for years. What's wrong with me? He wasn't lazy. He'd done everything they said to do. School degree, smile in interviews, say yes, show up. And yet here he was, 26. Jobless, heartbroken, and with exactly $47.21 in his account. He reached for his phone. No new messages, just another motivational reel on his feed. A flashy guy in a Lamborghini yelling, "You need the right mindset." He tossed the phone aside, bitter. Easy for you to say? But just before the screen went dark, one word caught his eye. Napoleon Hill. He'd heard the name before. Some old-timey self-help guy, right? Sounded like a scam. But something in the back of his mind nudged him. Later that night, unable to sleep, Daniel opened his browser. Napoleon Hill quotes. He skimmed. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The starting point of all achievement is desire. Think twice before you speak, because your words and influence will plant the seed of either success or failure. He rolled his eyes. It sounded like fortune cookie fluff. But then, one quote stopped him cold. Most great people have achieved their greatest success, just one step beyond their greatest failure. Daniel leaned forward. He read it again and again. And then he whispered aloud, "What if?" This is that step. He couldn't sleep. 2:13 a.m. he started digging deeper, not into quotes, but into Hill's philosophy. He found a PDF of Think and Grow Rich. The formatting was awful, the language a bit dated, but the message was strangely piercing, burning desire, definiteness of purpose, faith, persistence. He kept reading. Not because he was inspired, but because for the first time in weeks, he felt like someone was talking to him, not at him. Hill wasn't promising magic. He wasn't screaming about cars or followers. He was saying, "You are the key, but you must turn yourself." At 3:41 a.m., Daniel opened the same notebook he had abandoned in despair months ago. He turned to a blank page and wrote in thick, shaky letters, "I will no longer beg the world to see me. I will show the world who I am." Then, just beneath it, definiteness of purpose. What do I want? He stared at the words for a long time. For once he didn't rush, and then slowly he wrote, "I want to become the kind of man I would admire." If I met him as a stranger, the sky began to glow outside. He didn't have a job, didn't have money, but he had something he hadn't felt in months. Direction, and that, he realized, was a kind of wealth no one could fire him from. The morning air felt different. Daniel had only slept an hour, but he woke with a kind of clarity he hadn't felt in years, like someone had quietly swept the fog from his mind while he wasn't looking. His apartment was still silent. Still, half lit by a crooked window. But something inside him had shifted. The sentence he'd written at 3:41. A.M. stared back from the notebook on the floor. I want to become the kind of man I would admire if I met him as a stranger. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't even a goal. But it felt true. Truth was rare currency these days. He showered. Cold water. No shampoo. He didn't care. He cleaned the dishes in the sink. Old cereal bowls, crusted mugs, one by one, like he was scrubbing away who he'd been. He didn't know exactly what came next. But Hill had said one thing clearly. All achievements begin with definiteness of purpose, with a burning desire. Burning desire. Daniel had never been taught that. School taught compliance. Work taught survival. But no one had ever asked him to burn for something until now. Later that day, he'd walked to a dusty used bookstore on the corner of 6th and Willows. It smelled like time, yellow pages, coffee, forgotten dreams. He found it in the self-help section, a worn copy of Think and Grow Rich. Spine cracked, cover faded like an old flag. $2.5. Oh, he paid with coins. The man at the counter, gray-bearded and gentle, looked at the book and smiled. Funny thing about that one, he said. It doesn't give answers, just mirrors. Daniel tilted his head. Mirrors? The man nodded. It shows you who you are, not who you think you are. It's back home, he read slowly. He didn't skim this time, he read with a pen underlining. Making notes in the margins, not because someone told him to, but because every word felt like it was breathing on him. Desire, faith, autosuggestion, specialized, knowledge, imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, the mastermind. The mystery of sex transmutation, the subconscious mind, the brain, the sixth sense. It wasn't just business advice. It was a map, a spiritual blueprint. It's disguised as logic. But the chapter that struck him most wasn't about money or power. It was about faith, not religious faith, but belief in self. Belief so strong, so stubborn, that it could bend the world around it. Daniel had never believed in himself like that. Not once, but now he wanted to learn. That night, he wrote again. What do I believe about myself? The answer came fast. That I'm not enough. That I always fail. That I don't belong in the room. He stared at the words. Then beside them, he wrote. Is it true? He waited. No answer came, so he wrote, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. Over the next few days, Daniel treated the book like a lifeline. He made a new list titled 12 Principles I Will Practice. Even if I don't see results right away, I will define what I want clearly. I will speak it aloud to myself every morning. I will act as if it's already mine. I will persist no matter how I feel. I will seek knowledge, not just approval. I will keep my circles small and my standards high. I will not fear failure, only inaction. I will be my own rescue. I will not beg to be seen. I will show up. I will serve before I seek reward. I will forgive my past and bury it. I'll become a man I respect. He taped it to his wall, right above where he slept. By the end of the week, Daniel didn't have a job yet. But he had sent out 5 handwritten letters to people he admired. Real people, not influencers. A local business owner. A youth counselor. A friend's father who ran a construction firm. He didn't ask for a job, just a conversation. Connection? He didn't expect replies. But on the 6th day, got one. The email was from a woman named Tessa, who ran a small nonprofit helping young men re-enter society after prison. I don't usually reply to strangers, she wrote, but something about your letter felt real. We don't have much, but we do need someone who believes change is possible. Can you come in Tuesday? Bring your notebook. Daniel stared at the screen for a long time, not because it was a job offer. It wasn't. But because someone had finally said, we need you. And that was enough to keep going. He looked at the dog-eared book on his floor, touched its cover like it was an old friend. Then he walked to the mirror. He didn't see a loser. or a failure, or a fraud. He saw a man in progress, a man no longer running from who he was, but walking steadily toward who he would become. Tuesday came. Daniel arrived early. The nonprofit's office was small, just a two-room suite tucked above a laundromat, its walls covered in faded posters and marker-written quotes. On one wall in crooked lettering, someone had written, "Every man has a second chance if he's brave enough to believe he deserves it." Daniel stood staring at it when a voice broke the silence. "You must be Daniel." He turned to see a woman in her late 40s, sharp-eyed but warm. She extended her hand. "I'm Tessa," he nodded, grateful his palms weren't shaking for. Once, they sat down in a room that looked more like a storage closet than an office. Boxes of supplies lined the walls. A flickering desk lamp lit a worn table. No laptops. No buzzwords. Just presence. "I read your letter twice," Tessa said. "Most people want money. You asked for purpose. That's rare." Daniel shrugged. "I'm tired of chasing things that don't matter." She tilted her head. "So what matters now?" He hesitated. Then he said, "Becoming useful. Becoming someone I'd trust if I met him as a stranger." Tessa smiled. "That's the right kind of hunger." She slid a folder across the table. "There's no salary." "Not yet, but we need someone who can listen, right? Keep order. These kids, they don't need pity. They need presence. Think you can show up?" Daniel opened the folder, sighed a daily schedule, 3 client profiles, and a note that read, "Your mindset is your mentor." He looked up. "I'll be here," he said. Every day, he was. At first, he was just the guy who kept the chairs straight and handed out notebooks. But soon, they trusted him. There was Malik, 19, angry, brilliant, scared to admit he wanted to paint. Elijah, -22, barely spoke, but always stayed behind to clean. And Jamal, 217, still waiting for someone, anyone, to believe he wasn't. "Broken Daniel listened," he wrote. He showed up, and as he helped them, something inside him began to rebuild. At night, he still read Hill's book, but now he lived it. He practiced autosuggestion daily, not by chanting mantras, but by speaking, with intention, in the mirror, in prayer. In quiet moments, when doubt crept in, "I am here for a reason. My past does not define my worth." Every small act compounds. Hill had written, "Desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible." Daniel believed that now, not because of theory, but because he was starting to see it work, in himself. In Malik's paintings, in Elijah's silent strength, he began to write again. Not fiction, but essays. Personal pieces about what it means to fall and choose to rise. Tessa read one and asked if she could share it on the nonprofits. "Website? Only if you don't use my last name," he said. "Why not?" "Because it's not about me," he replied. "It's about what's possible." Weeks passed. Daniel woke before dawn, exercised, made lists. He walked to work with an upright spine, even when his stomach growled. He stopped waiting for validation. Instead, he gave it freely to others. And slowly, his life began to reflect his thoughts. One afternoon, after group session, Jamal stopped him at the door. "Can I ask you something?" he mumbled. "Of course. You ever been scared you'll always be the same?" Daniel smiled sadly. "Every day." "Confused, but you're different." Daniel paused. "No," he said. "I'm just finally honest about the fight." That night, Daniel sat with his notebook and wrote, "Burning desire is not about greed. It's about truth. It's about the fire in your chest that says, 'I am.'" Not done yet. He realized something. He had stopped trying to escape his life. He was now building it, and the world responded. An old college friend reached out after reading his essay online. A local podcast invited him to speak about mentorship and change. Even Tessa, hardened and wise, once said quietly after a long day, "Whatever you're doing, Daniel, keep doing it. The boys believe you." And that's no small thing. Still, not everything was perfect. There were nights he questioned himself. Weeks where money was tight. Times when he felt like he was playing dress-up in a role. It's too big for him. But then he'd return to the core of Hill's teaching. Persistence is to character what carbon is to steel. So he persisted, and what was once a decision had now become an identity. Daniel wasn't pretending to change anymore. He was becoming. 6 months later, the building felt different. Daniel still arrived early. He still swept the floor before anyone came in. But now his steps echoed with purpose. The same hallway that once felt like a temporary place now felt like home, because something inside him had become unshakable. He wasn't chasing rescue anymore. He was the rescue that morning. Asa pulled him aside. Her eyes were tired, but proud. "There's a donor visiting today," she said. "Big shot, quiet type. But he's thinking about backing our next youth center." Daniel nodded. "What do you need from me?" She smiled. "Be yourself." He laughed. "That's a risky ask." "Not anymore," she replied. "You're steady now, even when you're scared." He didn't say anything, just nodded and straightened his shoulders. The donor arrived that afternoon. Gray suit, polished shoes, little emotion on his face. He listened quietly as Tessa gave him the tour. She motioned to the classroom where the kids were gathered. Daniel stepped forward. "I'm Daniel," he said, extending his hand. The donor looked him over. "You run the mentorship?" "I help hold the mirror up," Daniel replied. The man raised an eyebrow. "You have a background in education?" Daniel shook his head. It's just in falling and getting up again. Something in that answer seemed to strike a chord. The donor nodded slowly. "I'd like to hear more sometime." "Gosh," as he walked away. Tessa leaned over. "That's the first time I've seen him stay more than 5 minutes." Daniel grinned. "Maybe it's the mop bucket." Later that night, Daniel sat alone in the quiet office. He looked at the list still taped above his. Bed in the back room, the 12 principles. They were worn now, smudged, the edges curled, but every word had shaped him. He pulled out his notebook and turned to a clean page. He wrote at the top, the shift then beneath it. There is no arrival. There is only becoming, again and again. You change your life not with one decision, but with the discipline to become new every single day. He closed the book gently. The kind of gentle you use when something means everything. The next morning, Jamal came in early. Sat across from Daniel in the empty classroom. He didn't say much at first, just stared at the floor. Daniel waited. Finally, Jamal said, "I applied for an apprenticeship." Daniel blinked. That's amazing, Jamal." "I almost didn't. I still hear that voice, you know. It's the one that says I'll mess it up." Daniel nodded. "I hear mine too." Sproul looked up surprised. "You?" Daniel smiled. "Every day. But now I answer back." There it was, the shift. Not loud. Not dramatic, just real. A boy who once believed he was broken had made a choice not to erase the voice of doubt, but to rise anyway. That was it. That was the real mindset change. Not fearlessness, but courage, built one moment at a time. Weeks later, Tessa announced that the donor had committed funding enough to open a second center on the south side. When she told Daniel, she added he asked who might run it. Daniel laughed. "Me? Who else?" She said, "You've got the heart and the fire." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked back to his room, sat down, and opened Hill's book once more. His fingers ran across the quote he had underlined 6 months ago, "Most great. People have attained their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure." He closed the book, looked at the mirror, then whispered, "I'm ready now." Epilogue. 1 year later, a wall in the new center displays a framed quote. In bold lettering, "You are not your past. You are your persistence." Beneath it, kids write their names. Not as a promise to be perfect, but as a promise to begin. Daniel watches from the doorway. His shirt is wrinkled. His notebook is always nearby. He doesn't talk about mindset much anymore. He lives it. Someone once told him that Napoleon Hill didn't give answers, only mirrors. He smiles at that now, because Daniel became the mirror. And in it, others finally see themselves.